John Mulaney says 13-year-olds are the meanest people on the planet. I completely agree. When I was in junior high, my family moved from Thousand Oaks, California, to a small town in southern Missouri of 7,000. It did not go well for me. My first day of school, I got my lunch tray and went and sat down at a table full of my classmates. And as I sat down, everyone else at the table got up and left. I spent months in social isolation. I turned the light within me off. It was like a firefly when the glow that illuminates the night goes dark. I had never felt so powerless. As a professor, I see many of my students who dim their lives or turn their lights off. I see how they feel powerless, and I want to do something to help. I'm a pracademic, a practical academic who wants to use evidence-based research to help my students and help our greater community. I spent years wasting my life with my light off, and I don't want others to do the same. One of my roles is to teach graduate leadership courses. And inevitably, we talk about women in leadership. The statistics are grim. I'm sure everyone in this room is aware of the gender pay gap. My statistics are all going to be from 2018, which is our most recent data. Right now, women are making 81 cents on the dollar for every dollar a man makes. Pew Research says that women have to work 39 more days than men every year for the same jobs. And Fortune 500 CEOs, there are more with the first name James than there are women Fortune 500 CEOs. Just saying. Of course, women who are from traditionally oppressed groups have it the worst. The biggest pay gap is for Black female executives who only earn 63 cents for every dollar by white male executives. It's terrible. These statistics depress me. We have to change systematic inequities that we experience. It's going to take all of us in our organizations to work to change these. We need to do best practices like mentoring, championing, and sponsoring women. It's why I helped start a mentoring program at Maryville University. We're going to have to create transparency and equity in pay. We're going to have to learn our implicit biases and work to change them and fight them so that we can counter these biases. These are just a few of many best practices. There are many that we need to enact together. And yet, it's incredibly difficult to enact these when you're feeling powerless and your light is out. So I thought, what can I do to help empower my students? These are really depressing statistics. I don't like teaching them. I don't enjoy them. So what could I do to actually empower my students? So I thought about, what could I do? What if I were to find women that were on fire, whose lights were shimmering in the night? What if I could go interview them? What if I could ask CEOs, CFOs, women who were rocking it right now, ask them about their stories, their advice, what their power tactics were? So I did. And I incorporated some of my grad students, and we did a study abroad, and we went to London and Paris and started interviewing these women, and I'm interviewing women here in St. Louis, and it's going great. And I was able to find out these power tactics. So one question I had is, what power tactics are used by successful executive women? So out of this research, I also, of course, did my research literature as a professor, don't worry, and my best practices, and looked at all that as well. So one idea that emerged is this idea I like to call scripts. This is what I named. These are lasting messages that we learn about ourselves from others, right? These lasting messages that stick with you. There are positive scripts, right, and imperiling scripts, negative scripts, right? Problem is imperiling scripts can be really negative. One of my favorite professors is Dr. John Gottman. He's an interpersonal communication professor, and he found that for every negative message, you need 5 positives just to come even. That's the weight of negative. So scripts can be imperiling or they can be empowering. Scripts that are empowering are what I call power scripts. From all the data, what I found is that what we need to do to become more powerful, especially when we're feeling powerless, is we need to decrease our imperiling scripts and increase our empowering scripts, our power scripts. So how do we do that? Where do these scripts come from? Well, you, Madam Chairperson, have a board in your head, an executive board in your head. You have been given messages, these scripts, by powerful people in your life who have told you what you should and should not do, who you should be and who you should not be. Who's on your board? I can tell you who was on mine. Those mean 13-year-olds. A belittling boss and a cruel ex-boyfriend. I could hear their critiques. It's the reason why I never wore a sleeveless dress. It's the reason why I would spend way too long on even a basic email to make sure it was absolutely perfect, there were no mistakes. It's the reason why I never thought I would get married. So that's what happened until I realized my power as Madam Chairperson, and I fired them. Now the people that sit on my board are those that empower, those that share empowering scripts. Now, that doesn't mean they just give me, positive, yay, you're wonderful, you're wonderful. These are people that actually give me constructive feedback, right? Because we all need to learn and grow. And it's helpful if you have actually a squad. You can call them a tribe, whatever you want to call them, but a group of people around you that do help you grow and mature. If you can have that, that's the best idea. That was one of the best practices that I found. Now, who's on your board? Do you have imperiling scripts? Does anyone need to be fired? I hear. When I was in college, I switched my major officially 9 times. Yeah, and I'm a professor. No kidding, you can ask my parents. 9 times. My first job, I got out of college. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I did that for 2 years, got promoted, switched jobs, jumped to another job, did that for a while, switched jobs. I had 4 careers by the time I was 30. I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. I had an imperiling script going at the time. My imperiling script was, I will never figure out what I want to be when I grow up. I have a lot of students who are in this place that have this script. I wasted a lot of time on this script, bemoaning, I will never figure it out. A lot of angst. Well, I eventually did. What if we flip that script to I will? I will figure it out. I will know what I want to do. It took me till 34, but I figured it out. Professor's good. It is what I want to be when I grow up. But I wasted so much time and angst, and all those experiences I had, all those jobs, all those majors. One of my friends calls me intellectually promiscuous. all those majors, all those jobs, they all helped shape who I became. They made me a better professor and a better person. It wasn't a waste. Nothing is wasted. And what if we flip our imperiling scripts that are holding us back? So some quick tactics help you become more powerful, right? So we're talking about powerless to powerful. Power tactics, quick, no hedging. So hedging are things like, I'm so sorry to bother you, or I hate to ask this, or this is probably a terrible idea. Never say that. If it's a terrible idea, don't open your mouth. So stop saying those. Apologizing. I'm so sorry for this. I'm so sorry for that. I'm so sorry. Don't say that either, unless you truly need to apologize. There's a great hack. Gmail Chrome has this plugin, Just Not Sorry. It's free. You download it. It will highlight all those passive phrases, and you can decide whether or not to delete them. Make your emails more powerful. The final thing is things with your head, how to be more powerful with your head. Head nonverbals. Tilting your head. How many of you right now are tilting your head like, oh? That is a passive gesture. You want to make sure your head is straight. The other thing is touching your face is very passive. Touching your hair, especially if you're playing with your hair. Don't do that in meetings. So head nonverbals, things like that. Holding your head straight. Nodding. The first time I was on the news as a subject matter expert, I went back and watched it. I looked like a bobblehead the entire time. Don't do that. One nod is fine. More than that, not enough. Eye contact, very important. Direct eye contact, very important. More eye contact tends to be more powerful. Now, don't stare down people, but you know what I mean. Don't look down. Don't look at your hands. Don't look at your feet. That also very passive. Avoid that if you can. So, moving on to our next imperiling script. When I was 26, I worked for a corporation, very large corporation. You would all know, but I'm not going to disclose them. And I won a Corporate Excellence Award, huge award in front of 5,000 people. The next week, they laid me off. I took my severance package and I moved to Northeast China and taught English. I did not speak Chinese. I did not know Chinese. I did not know anyone in China. I had never been to China. I was not an English teacher. Sounds like a great idea, right? It was one of the best decisions of my life. It has helped shape who I became today, who I am today. It helps me in teaching. It was wonderful, a wonderful experience. Go on adventures that light up your soul. When you go on these adventures, it helps to get some information. So I highly recommend informational interviews. Informational interviews are just that, if you haven't heard of them before, asking people for information. It's essentially what I'm doing with these powerful women. I'm writing a book where I'm interviewing all these powerful women, asking them for information, and then sharing it with others. Simply asking for information. So if you're going on an adventure, I recommend asking people who've maybe been on a similar adventure or know something about what you're doing. That would be helpful. A imperiling script I had at the time that you might have as well is, I am afraid. Usually the things that are worth doing are a little scary. If we flip that script, we flip it to, I'm afraid, I do it anyway. A lot of times, the things that are scary are often the things that are going to make us grow, that are going to push us out of those comfort zones. Do it anyway. Like I said, it was one of the best experiences of my life. Was I scared? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was scared. For a while, I kept my passport and like credit card and money nearby, and I was like, I can always get on a plane. I can always get on a plane and go home. But we're afraid we do it anyway. One of my favorite quotations I'll let you read by Harper Lee. It's despite the fear that we move on. So let's talk about some power tactics that you might want to use for networking, because if you're going to start on these adventures, you need some networking tactics. First thing, always initiate the handshake. It is much more powerful if you always initiate handshake with, of course, good eye contact. Always initiate. Second thing, Have a wing person. You've probably heard of this before, like having a wingman or wing woman when you're dating, like in a dating context. This also works really well in work contexts. If I were to say, I'm a great writer, you might believe me. But if Heidi, who introduced me today, says, oh, Leilani, she is a great writer, you're much more likely to believe it. It's the reason why Amazon reviews are so effective. How many of you read Amazon reviews? All of us, right? This is why we tend to believe others than we believe the people talking about themselves or their own products. If you have a wing person, the other thing I want to say is be a wing person for someone else, for another woman. Be a wing person. The final thing is a fun one. This is an eyebrow flash. This is a nonverbal communication trick when you first meet someone that will create warmth and also likability. It just increases warmth and likability a little bit. What it is raising your eyebrows by 1/6 for 1/6 of a second. Okay? It looks like this. I'll do it for you. I'm gonna start over here and I'll go across. Ready? Hi, so nice to meet you. 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 Eyebrow flash. Now, when you flash people, be sure to practice. Because I've seen some students try to enact this and it did not go well. But what it does by raising your eyebrows is it helps people focus on your eyes, and it does create a sense of warmth. When you first meet someone, you can do it. I have a colleague who always does it. It cracks me up. Every time I see him, I'm like, hi, good to see you too. So eyebrow flash. This is something you can do when you first meet someone. Now you'll watch people and you'll be like, he just eyebrow flashed me. I am honored today to be around so many wonderful people. Together, we need to feel powerful so we can enact change at the systematic levels that are needed to change these disparities, these gender disparities. Imagine if we, like fireflies, all turned up our lights, igniting others to turn up theirs, illuminating the sky. You have the power. You have the light. Let your light shine.